Hi guys, it's Craig here back on a Homebrew Wednesday for April 13th, 2012. Took a little breather last week, didn't really have much to say except thanks for being part of the home brewing community, and it's all great. We had a great weekend on JTV. Let's move on with some home brewing stuff now today. Basically, I want to talk to you about back sweetening. Now, most people probably know what that is. If you don't, then let's go through a scenario here. Let's suppose you took some sort of a container like this and you made yourself some inmate brew or hard apple cider. Okay, it's not really inmate brew, it's a much better quality than what they do in the jails, but you know, you took some fruit juice from the grocery store, you added some sugar, you put in some wine yeast, and you made yourself a cheap man's version of wine. And we've all done it. In fact, I've got some over here. Forgot to bring it into the shot actually. And this is one of mine, cheap man's. There's only a little bit left. I don't know if you can see how clear that is, but it's absolutely perfectly clear. And I didn't add anything to it to clear it. It just took some time, about 3 weeks or whatever, to clear in the bottle. Okay, it's pretty good, but it's a little bitter because the yeast ferments all the sugars. And you're left with no sweetness. It's very dry tasting. And that doesn't appeal to some people. So let's talk about how you can fix that. Okay? Now, of course, the obvious thing is, well, just add some more sugar to it. Well, you could do that right before you drink it. Add a little bit more sugar and drink it right away, and you'll get some sweetness. But that's not very convenient. You know, now if you add the sugar to it and then let it sit, it's going to ferment again. You're going to get more fermentation, and that sugar is going to ferment out, and you're going to end up with the same thing, just with more alcohol. Eventually the yeast will conk out, and it won't be able to eat any more sugar, and then you'll start tasting a sweetness. But that's a very hard point to reach. It depends on how old the yeast is, what type of yeast it is. A lot of things play into that, so it's not a very predictable thing. And you could be adding sugar to it for weeks until it finally reaches that point. You could end up with 19% alcohol, which you may not want, or maybe you do, I don't know. Well, here's a reliable way to stop the fermentation and then proceed on adding some flavor to your inmate wine. Now listen, I got this idea from Steve45CA. I have to give him credit for this, because if it wasn't for his videos, I probably wouldn't be doing this. It did lead me to this idea that I'm about to share with you. But he has some videos on his channel about making wine coolers out of practically nothing. I mean practically nothing. And he makes some pretty damn good wine coolers. I haven't tasted them, but I'm told that they're quite delicious. So check his stuff out. Now, he led me down the path to what I'm about to show you. Here I have about 3.5 gallons of what I would consider inmate wine. A very cheap wine. It doesn't taste all that great. It's not bad. It certainly isn't, you know, a table wine that you would buy in a liquor store or whatever. It's drinkable. It's about 12 or 13% alcohol, and it's just a hooch, really. It's down the hatch, catch a buzz. That's about it. Okay. Now, if I wanted to add some flavor to this, I could turn around and I could get some frozen concentrated fruit juice. And I could get some of these, and I could add them to this, pour them in, and then put the airlock back on, and then there, I've got flavored wine. But again, the problem with that, as you probably already know, is that this has sugar in it, and it's going to start to ferment. And then you're going to end up with that. Okay, so you don't want that. You want to have some sweetness to it and some flavor. Now, going on Steve45CA's idea, and also looking back a couple years, when I brewed some of these Twisted Mist wine kits. This was a red one, a red fruit wine. This was a sort of a greenish colored fruit wine. They were both really good, really delicious. Twisted Mist is the name of the wine kit. In these wine kits, what they have you do is they have you ferment the juice, and they give you a juice similar to this. It's not very high quality grape juice, but it does ferment, it does create alcohol. They give you that, and then they get you to kill the yeast using a couple of things I'm going to show you in just a moment. And then you add the flavor packet that they give you, which is sort of similar to adding a few of these. And then you get a nice fruity tasting wine. And actually, they, as I said, they are very delicious, and you should try these. Here's what they do. They get you to ferment this, and then when it's done fermenting, they tell you to add a couple of things. The first thing that they tell you to add is potassium metabisulfite, and they give you that in the kit. Okay. Now I have sodium metabisulfite here. I've never fully understood the difference. Sodium is a salt. The metabisulfite part is the sulfites that they put as preservatives in some fruit juices. Those are the ones you can't use to make inmate wine because they won't ferment, because the sulfite kills the yeast. Well, that's what we're interested in doing here, is killing the yeast. So I've got sodium metabisulfite here, and what I do is I add a little bit of this to here. Now the amounts I'm a little vague on. I added, I was told 1/4 teaspoon per gallon, and I have about 4 gallons here, so I put 2 teaspoons of this in. That's what I did. You should really consult your homebrew supplier. If you're able to buy this, then you're able to ask somebody how much to put in, because you're going to be buying it from a homebrew place. So once you've done that, you let that sit for a day or two, so that make sure everything gets killed. You give it a little stir. And then you add potassium sorbate, the second thing that you want to put in here. What this does is it ensures that there will be no more further fermentation in your wine. Now, well, we just killed the yeast, so why would there be further fermentation? Well, if the wine gets infected, if some wild yeasts get in from outside while you're siphoning it or tampering with it, whatever you're doing, if some wild yeast gets to it, it could get infected with wild yeast that's floating around everywhere, and it could start to ferment again when you start adding sweet things to it. And then you're going to get sour off flavors, and possibly it could go completely off. So what you want to do is prevent this from ever being able to ferment again, ever, no matter what yeast gets into it. And that's what this is for. Now, I think Steve used just the potassium sorbate, and he had success with that. So, you can watch his videos and check and consult with him to find out exactly how he did that. I'm just going this method because this is what the wine kits use, and it's not very expensive to pick up some of this metabisulfite. So first you put the metabisulfite in, then you put this again. The amounts, I'll put it on the screen. I haven't got my glasses over here. It's kind of small, of how much of this you add to there. Okay, I've already done it, so I've got it written down somewhere, but I didn't bring the notes over with me. So with those two chemicals, I have not only killed the yeast, but I have completely made this wine unfermentable ever again. Okay, so this will never ferment again, no matter what you do. Right, so it's stable. That's what they call stabilizing. Now, I don't have enough of this stuff to add to the entire thing. As a matter of fact, you can pick up different flavors of this and do a few different flavors of this wine. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get one of these, sanitize it, and I'm going to fill it up with this wine, and then I'm going to add that to it, that juice, and we'll see what happens. I'll be right back. Okay, now as you can see, I've got this not quite all the way filled up. There's some star sand at the top there, big deal. Now I just got a little bit here. I'm just going to taste of this wine I showed you that was back there. Yeah. It tastes kind of like candy. It's not really that much flavor in that. So this is what we're going to do. So don't forget, killed the yeast with sodium metabisulfite, and then preserved the wine so it doesn't ferment again with potassium sorbate. Okay, that's just what I did. And again, the amounts you should really ask your homebrew supplier, just to make sure you get the right thing. So let's put a funnel up on here. I've got some frozen concentrated grape punch that's been thawed out, and let's just add her right in there. Don't forget to sanitize your funnel and whatnot, and everything else. And oh, I forgot to get a little stir stick. Okay, sanitize that, and just going to give it a little gentle stir here. There. So this will not ferment again, and it should, I hope, taste better than it did. Let's give it a try. There. Certainly looks different. Oh, that's a lot better. There's flavor there now. It's sweeter. There's the fruit flavor from the juice. It takes the alcohol content down just a little bit, but it's probably about 10% now. Nice and clear. And it's a great way to back sweeten your inmate wines or your hard apple ciders or whatever it is that you're doing. Of course, it won't be hard apple cider if you're adding grape juice to it, but you know, whatever you need to do to get it to taste better. If you need it to taste better. My last hard apple cider was fantastic with brown sugar. So, you know, but yeah, if your inmate wine is a little bit bitter and not quite sweet enough, then if you follow this procedure, you will get great results. Now, the other thing before I go is that you could just freeze the wine. Now, in my case, I got a lot over there. I can't freeze that whole thing. If you've got it in a glass container, you'll have to put it into a plastic container, freeze it for a couple of days. What that will do is it will kill the yeast, because when you freeze it, it destroys the yeast the membranes of the cells of the yeast. So for the most part, you're going to be killing off your yeast. It's not 100% foolproof. You would probably have to drink this within 3 or 4 days, I would think, if you just froze it to kill the yeast, because eventually it's going to pick up again and it may start to ferment again because you haven't protected it with the potassium sorbate. So I'm just going to quickly recap. You ferment your beverage, whatever it happens to be. You use the sodium metabisulfite first, then the potassium sorbate second, or just the potassium sorbate if you want to just try that alone. I haven't tried that, although I will. And you kill your yeast, you cancel out any possible fermentation, and then you add fruit flavor to it with frozen concentrated juice, any flavor you like. I don't know if orange juice would work. I don't know if grapefruit juice would work, but kiwi, pineapple, anything. Even like pina colada mix or something like that. You know, anything you want to try, you can add to this and it won't ferment anymore. It'll stay sweet and nice. And this is a beautiful drink. Now look, and I honestly didn't plan this, but while I was siphoning this, I poured myself another glass of inmate brew. So I'm double-fisted again. It's just the way it works out with me when I do these Homebrew Wednesday videos. This is very bitter. It hasn't been stabilized, so I can't back sweeten it, so it's just the way it is. I'm going to drink it as best I can. This, on the other hand, is nice and sweet, and it won't ferment anymore. Man, that is freaking good. Very tasty. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Maybe we'll see you on Friday, and we'll see you in upcoming videos, which are coming up very soon on YouTube as well. Okay? Cheers, happy brewing, and take care. Hi guys, it's Craig here, and it's Homebrew Wednesday time once again. And I think it's April 10th? No, 12th? Oh, I forget. Down the bottom of the screen there. Let me see. What is it? Hang on. April. I have not only killed the yeast, but I have completely made this wine unfermentable ever again. So nothing... God, it's a bitch to get old.